13 foods to avoid if you have arthritis.
When you have arthritis, your body is in an inflammatory state. What you eat may not only increase inflammation, it can also set you up for other chronic conditions such as obesity, heart disease and diabetes.
I am a 43-year-old wife and mother of 2 grade schoolers and have had severe rheumatoid arthritis for nearly 10 years. Things that most people take for granted, for example sleeping, bathing, brushing one's teeth, getting dressed, making meals, and even driving a car, are extremely challenging for me.
Indeed, individuals fortunate enough to avoid arthritis take some things for granted. As this brave mother just explained, her symptoms make everyday activities difficult. Contrary to popular belief, arthritis involves a wide array of symptoms. Loss of motion, joint pain, stiffness, and swelling are the most common. Certain foods stimulate an inflammatory response, and certain foods suppress an inflammatory response. The context of this article focuses on the foods to avoid with arthritis, and some suggested alternatives. For individuals not diagnosed with arthritis, research suggests that including anti-inflammatory foods in your diet and limiting foods that trigger joint pain may help ward off the disease. More scientifically valid research cites obesity as a primary risk factor. Relatedly, consumption of inflammatory foods correlates with obesity rates. In this article, we'll discuss 13 foods to avoid with arthritis. We'll also provide some suggestions on what foods to eat instead. Here are 13 foods to avoid. 1. Red meat. Red meats are higher in fat, particularly saturated fat, than white meats and plant-based protein. Studies have associated red meat intake with increased levels of inflammation, which may worsen swelling in the joints and arthritis symptoms. One study found that substituting red meat with a serving of chicken, fish, legumes, or nuts was associated with lower inflammatory biomarkers. 2. Gluten and wheat. Gluten and wheat both produce an inflammatory response, particularly in folks who are intolerant to either. A leaky gut, or increased gut permeability, has been linked to joint pain in many studies. A leaky gut allows toxins and waste to enter the bloodstream via the intestines. These harmful byproducts are seen as a threat, and the body initiates an immune response. The immune response is what leads to inflammation, sometimes targeting areas in and around the joints. 3. High-fat dairy. Milk, yogurt, and other dairy products can be bad for arthritis, but it depends on the amount of fat and sugar a particular product contains. In general, avoid full-fat dairy and products with added sugar when you have arthritis. Research has shown a link between a high-fat diet and inflammatory reactions. If you suspect you are sensitive to or intolerant of dairy, eliminate dairy for a brief period of time. This step could help you discover if you feel better when dairy is absent from your diet. Note that some dairy products, such as yogurt and kefir, have probiotics, or beneficial bacteria. Kefir is a milk product that is similar to yogurt. Research suggests that probiotics and a healthy mix of gut bacteria decrease inflammation and could help reduce arthritis symptoms. 4. Omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, in excess, can worsen inflammation. Common sources of omega-6 fats include soybeans, corn, safflower, sunflower, canola oil, nuts, meat. Try cooking with olive oil, which is primarily monounsaturated fat. And eat more fatty fish, such as salmon, tuna, and cod. 5. Corn oil. Corn oil, or to be more precise, any food with high doses of omega-6 fatty acids, baked goods or baked snacks among them, can produce inflammation. It is quite easy to overindulge on this fatty acid because so many foods contain it. Corn oil isn't the only industrial oil to refrain from consuming. All oils derived from seeds, cottonseed, canola, grapeseed, soybean, safflower, rice bran, and sunflower oil, should also be avoided. 6. Fried and processed foods. Per a study conducted at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, reducing consumption of fried and processed foods can reduce inflammation and actually help restore the body's natural defenses regardless of age of health status. The same study also provides dietary recommendations to prevent other diseases. Fried foods are often cooked in oils that are high in saturated fat and omega-6 fatty acids. Both have been associated with increased inflammation and an increase in arthritis symptoms. Fried foods often have other ingredients, breading, salt, and added sugar, that can lead to inflammation, too. Try making your meals at home more often, so you can control what goes in them. Opt for air frying or baking instead of frying. 7. Salt and preservatives. Many foods produced today include excessive amounts of salt and preservatives. The former makes some foods more palatable, and the latter artificially extends a product's shelf life. Regardless, consuming too much salt and preservatives may produce inflammation within the joints. Prepared foods, including of the frozen and microwavable varieties, are often loaded with salt, preservatives, and additives. 8. AGEs. AGE is an acronym for an advanced glycation end product, a toxic byproduct resulting from fried, grilled, heated, or pasteurized foods. Certain proteins in the body are attacked upon consuming AGE foods. Predictably, this stimulates an autoimmune response. Cytokines are inflammatory messengers released by the autoimmune system to protect against further damage caused by AGEs and other harmful agents. Cytokines directed to areas within or around joints exacerbates arthritis symptoms by increasing inflammation. 9. Certain vegetables. The plant name for these vegetables is Solanaceae, and they contain solanine, a type of compound that produces adverse physiological reactions in arthritis patients. Consuming vegetables like eggplant, peppers, potatoes, and tomatoes can worsen arthritis pain. If you're a fan of sweet potatoes, here's some great news. They're not within this class of vegetables, and are okay to eat. 10. Sugar. Nobody likes having to give up the occasional sugary treat, but processed sugars, similar to AGEs, release cytokines, molecules that stimulate inflammation. Soda, fruit juices, sweet tea, and other sweetened drinks often contain a large amount of sugar. Try to limit your total added sugar intake to 9 teaspoons per day. For the sake of comparison, a 12-ounce can of soda has about 36 grams of sugar, or more than 8 teaspoons. Sugar, as many of you already know, is an umbrella term for other types of derivative ingredients, namely, ingredients that end in -ose, such as fructose, glucose, and sucrose, among others. Just make sure you're reading the label. Limit your added sugar intake to those 9 teaspoons per day. Common food sources of added sugar include candy, desserts, baked goods, ice cream, processed snacks, and condiments like ketchup and barbecue sauce. 11. Canned foods. You don't have to steer clear of all canned goods, just those high in sugar or salt. For example, fruit canned in syrup usually is high in added sugar, which can increase inflammation. Look for fruit that has been canned in water or 100% fruit juice without added sugar. Salt is used as a preservative in many canned goods, including vegetables, meats, and soups. Look for products that are either low in sodium or include no added salt. Try to keep your salt intake to 2 grams per day. 12. Refined carbohydrates. Refined carbohydrates, mainly white flour products, white potatoes, white rice, and most cereals are high glycemic index, HGI, foods. HGI foods incite the production of byproducts, including AGEs, which worsens inflammation. Additionally, per an article published by Scientific American, refined carbs may increase the risk of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease more than fat does. As mentioned, obesity is among the primary risk factors of arthritis. When grains are processed into white flour or white rice, most of the fiber and nutrients are stripped away. This leaves the grain as a simple carbohydrate, which is more likely to spike your blood sugar and increase inflammation. Try to eat more complex carbohydrates, like brown rice, quinoa, and whole grains. 13. Alcohol and tobacco. Alcohol and tobacco use has been linked to development of certain arthritis types. Per Healthline.com, studies have shown that environmental factors play a part in who develops rheumatoid arthritis, and that smoking is a big risk factor. A link has been discovered between levels of alcohol use and chances of developing gout. Some types of alcohol, like red wine, can have anti-inflammatory properties because they contain antioxidants. In fact, drinking no more than 5 ounces of red wine per day has been shown to promote joint health. For other types of arthritis, like gout, alcohol can trigger a flare. Studies have associated all types of alcohol with an increased risk for developing gout and more frequent gout flares. So, what to eat instead? Here are some of the best food types for arthritis, including examples of each type, as reported by the Arthritis Foundation. Omega-3 rich fish, herring, mackerel, salmon and tuna. Soybeans, tofu and edamame. Omega-3 foods and oil. Extra virgin oil, avocado, walnuts, walnut oil. Cherries, broccoli, green tea, citrus fruits, grapefruits, limes, and oranges. Whole grains, brown rice, oatmeal. Beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, and red beans. Garlic and onions. Food can play a role in the amount of inflammation you deal with every day. If you've been diagnosed with arthritis, simple diet changes could help manage your symptoms. Research shows that foods high in saturated fat, omega-6 fats, sugar, and salt could intensify arthritis symptoms. Instead, aim for a diet full of vegetables, fruit, omega-3s, and whole grains to help reduce inflammation in your joints.